The stars were quiet the moment before the alarm began. Commander Ralvik of the Koran Defense Fleet watched the blinking symbols on his holoscreen with growing confusion. For years, the Koran had feared the Deathworlders humans because every story about them was extreme. Their homeworld was known as one of the hardest planets in the galaxy. Their gravity crushed most species. Their storms could tear metal. Their predators hunted in packs. And humans, somehow, evolved there and became stronger than the dangers around them. But humans were also known for something else: mercy. They helped weaker species. They sent food, medicine, engineers, peacekeepers. They sent aid to every crisis. That was why Ralvik felt a strange cold inside his chest when the sensors picked up the massive fleet entering the system. Not 8 ships, not hospital vessels, not diplomats, warships. Every one of them. He had never seen ships like these. They were huge, heavy, shaped like weapons more than machines. They moved without fear, without caution, without slowing down. They flew like they owned space. Ralvik whispered, "Why would humans send this to us?" His officer, Jera, swallowed hard before answering. "Commander, they aren't responding to any calls. We tried every known human frequency." Ralvik stared at the frontmost vessel. It was almost the size of a small moon, covered in armor plates with no visible weak points. It looked ancient and new at the same time, as if it had survived 100 wars and was ready for 100 more. The fleet wasn't here to help. The fleet was here with purpose. The Koran Defense Station shook slightly as the ships passed overhead. Civilians on the planet below were already panicking. News reports shouted questions the government couldn't answer. Why did humans send warships? Had someone insulted them? Did they come to punish the Koran Empire? Did they mistake them for an enemy? But Ralvik sensed something else. This wasn't anger. This was something darker. "Zoom in," he ordered. The screen enlarged the central ship's structure. At first, it looked simply like a command tower. Then the light shifted, revealing scars. Deep scars. Hull tiers burned shut by plasma. Entire sections welded by emergency repair drones. Some parts looked melted. Others cracked. These ships looked like survivors of something so dangerous that even Deathworlders struggled against it. Something attacked them, Ralvik whispered. Jera's voice shook. But humans are Deathworlders. What could attack them like that? No one had an answer. Before they could speak again, a coded pulse echoed through the system. It wasn't aimed at the Koran. It was a repeating beacon. Ralvik frowned. "Can we translate it?" "We're trying, Commander." Jera tapped desperately at her console. "It's human encryption, but old. Extremely old." The message finally appeared as simple text. "Do not approach. Evacuation in progress. Containment unstable." Ralvik felt his throat dry. Evacuation? Containment? From what? Suddenly the central ship opened a series of massive doors along its lower hull. Thousands of small capsules fired downward toward the planet. Ralvik froze. "Drop pods? Are they invading?" "No," Jera corrected, eyes widening. "They're empty. They're not soldiers. They're shelters. Emergency shelters. They're forcing evacuation on our world." This made even less sense. Humans didn't invade with shelters. Ralvik's mind raced. Why would Deathworlders send their most dangerous ships to evacuate a species they hadn't even contacted officially in decades? Jera's console beeped again, 3 sharp tones. "Danger tones, Commander," she whispered. "We just detected something else." A faint distortion moved at the edge of the system. It was not a ship, not a rock, not any known creature or weapon. The distortion bent light unnaturally, like space was folding around it. Ralvik tried to speak, but his voice failed. Jera finally said what he couldn't. "That thing is following the humans." The distortion pulsed once, and every sensor on the station glitched. Consoles crackled. Lights flickered. On the planet below, power grids collapsed for entire cities. Whatever followed the humans could drain systems from light years away. Ralvik grabbed the edge of his desk. "Are the humans running from it?" "They aren't running," Jera said softly. "They're leading it." Her meaning hit him like a shockwave. Humans didn't come to attack the Koran. Humans came to protect them, but they weren't protecting them from the humans. They were protecting them from something humans themselves failed to kill. The Deathworlders were evacuating innocent worlds because they couldn't contain the horror chasing them. The comms crackled. A new voice reached them, deep, rough, human. "This is Captain Maracada, the End's Harbinger. All Koran authorities, listen carefully. You must not engage the entity approaching your system. It adapts to energy signatures. It learns. And if you shoot at it, it will learn you, Ralvik stared at the screen. His voice finally returned, faint, terrified, humble. What is that thing? Captain Kate answered with exhaustion in her tone, as if humanity had been fighting it for years. We don't have a name that matters anymore, she said. We only know one truth. The channel cut for a moment, then came back with her final words. It kills everything it reaches. Ralvik looked at the planet below, the humans above, and the dark shape entering the system. The unexpected war had begun, and the Koran were trapped in the middle. The giant warships moved like shields, placing themselves between the Koran planet and the strange distortion at the edge of the system. The human vessels formed a wall layer after layer of armored hulls, almost like they were ready to sacrifice themselves before letting the creature reach the world. Commander Ralvik watched the formation shift with precision that sent a chill along his spine. These were not soldiers preparing for a normal battle. These were people preparing for something that scared even them, and anything that scared humans meant disaster. Jera continued to study the readings on her console. Commander, the distortion is growing. Its mass is increasing, but sensors still cannot show its shape. Ralvik looked at the holo map. The dark object at the edge of the system flickered like a broken shadow, sometimes splitting into two, sometimes collapsing into a single point. It's not a ship, he whispered. No, Jera agreed. It's more like a living gravity storm. The human voice returned over the comms, clearer than before. All Koran ships, move your civilians into the shelters we deployed. Do not approach our fleet. Do not scan the entity directly. Do not broadcast high-energy signals. Ralvik responded. Captain Cade, we need information. What is coming toward us? There was silence for a moment, and Ralvik feared the human would refuse to answer. Instead, she spoke with a tired honesty. It started as a research accident, she said. Not on our world. On a lost colony. Scientists tried to test a new type of energy converter. Instead, they opened something that should never have been touched. Jera covered her mouth with her hand. They opened a tear. Not a tear, Captain Cade replied. A door. Ralvik felt sweat on his palms. A door to where? We still don't know. The distortion pulsed again. This time, everyone felt it. The station's lights dimmed to half power. The gravity plate shifted, dropping all personnel for a split second before stabilizing. The creature, if it was a creature, was approaching faster now. Human ships began powering massive shields. A deep blue glow spread across their hulls. Energy barriers thickened like layers of solid light. One human ship, smaller than the rest but densely armored, broke formation and moved forward. It positioned itself alone at the front, far ahead of the others. Jera zoomed the display. Commander, that vessel is heavily damaged. Half its hull is missing. Ralvik stared. The ship looked like it had been torn apart by claws the size of mountains. Captain Kate spoke again. That ship is the SSV Valiant. It was the first to encounter the entity. The crew is gone, but the ship's AI is still active. It knows how to distract the creature. It has one mission left, Ralvik whispered. A suicide mission for our survival. Kate said quietly. For all survival. The distortion surged forward, moving at a speed no natural object should have. Space folded around it, spiraling like the universe itself was afraid to touch the thing. Then the first signal hit. A low, vibrating tone spread across every ship and station. Ralvik's vision blurred. His heart skipped a beat. His fingers felt cold. Jera gasped and clutched her head. Commander, is it attacking our minds? Ralvik forced himself to focus. Shield your thoughts. Do not look directly at the visual feed. The humans, however, seemed prepared. Their ships emitted counter signals, sharp sound waves. The Valiant launched a pulse of white-hot energy. The distortion reacted. For the first time, Ralvik saw a shape only for a split second. Something enormous. Something shifting. Something with too many outlines to understand. It had no clear body, yet it looked alive. It was like liquid shadow and burning light mixed together, forming a nightmare that refused to stay in one form. Jera trembled. How do you fight something that doesn't have a shape? Ralvik knew the answer already. You don't. The humans were not here to win a war. They were here to delay extinction. The Valiant moved forward alone, its engines burning bright. It fired a beam directly at the creature. The beam should have cut through asteroids, but the distortion absorbed it like smoke. Then it learned. It fired the beam back stronger. Ralvik shouted, brace for impact. The returned energy hit the Valiant. The ship was torn apart in a silent explosion. Fragments of metal spinning into space like glowing dust. Jera covered her mouth, horrified. It killed the AI ship in seconds, but Captain Cade's voice came again. She's breathing hard now. That's why we needed it to buy time. All Koran forces, activate your evacuation protocols. We cannot stop the entity, but we can move your civilians off-world before it reaches the planet. Ralvik felt the weight of her words. Humans were risking their lives for a species they barely knew. He asked, voice cracking, why would humans help us? Captain Cade answered instantly, because no one helped us. The entire human fleet moved into formation again, preparing for another attack. Their engines glowed brighter than before, ready to burn themselves out. The distortion pulsed deeper, like it was calling for something. Ralvik stood frozen as a new symbol appeared on the sensors. Another distortion, a second one. Jera whispered the horror. Neither wanted to believe. It's not alone. The war had not even started, and already the darkness was multiplying. The moment the second distortion appeared, the command center fell into complete silence. No one moved. No one breathed. The horror was too heavy to describe. One creature was already impossible to fight, now there were two. Commander Ralvik felt his legs weakening as he stared at the updated sensor feed. The second shadow was smaller, but its movements were sharper, faster, like something hungry that had just smelled prey. Jera whispered, Commander, this is the end. Nothing could stand against two of those. Ralvik placed his hand on her shoulder, steadying her. The humans are still fighting, he said softly. As long as they stand, we do not surrender. Outside, the human fleet shifted again. Engines roared with blue fire. Turrets turned. Shields thickened. Captain Mara Cade's voice returned, firm and unwavering. All Koran stations, continue evacuation. We will hold as long as we can. Ralvik answered, Captain, there are two now. How do we fight two? We don't, Cade said. We only slow them. The words chilled everyone. The second distortion split briefly into three shapes, then merged again, twisting violently as if reality could not hold it steady. The lights in the Koran station flickered. Power dropped by 20% without warning. Even the air felt heavy, like something unseen was pressing in on the station walls. Jera checked her console with shaking hands. The distortions, they are feeding on our systems. They don't even need to touch us. Ralvik straightened, forcing calm into his voice. Focus on the evacuation. Speed is survival, but not everyone could be saved. A sudden explosion shook the view screen. One of the smaller human destroyers near the edge of the formation went dark. Its lights blinked out, and the ship drifted with no control. Jera gasped. Did the creature hit it? No, Ralvik said quietly, analyzing the pattern. The ship simply died, like its power was drained. The second distortion pulsed, and the drifting destroyer began to fold unnaturally, twisting as if invisible hands were squeezing the metal. Humans had warned them. These entities learned and hunted. Captain Cade's voice cut through the chaos. All human ships, focus fire on the smaller entity. We may force it back. Koran command, prepare for heavy shockwaves. Every human vessel that still had power opened fire. Beams, missiles, railguns, particle cannons. The sky turned white with the brightness of 1,000 weapons. For a moment, it looked like the humans might succeed. The second distortion flickered. Its shape warped violently as the firestorm hit it. Then everything changed. The human beams bent toward the creature and disappeared inside it. Missiles exploded early, detonating in midair without even touching their target. Every railgun slug dissolved into dust before impact. The creature had learned again. Ralvik felt his hope dim. Weapons are useless. Jera whispered what everyone feared. How do you defeat something that learns faster than you shoot? The answer came from Captain Cade, breathless but steady. By stalling it until we understand its focus. Ralvik frowned. Its focus. We believe it hunts signals, Cade said. Life signals. Tech signals. Anything that shows intelligence. Jera froze. Then this planet. Yes, Cade said. Your world is a beacon to it. The second distortion moved suddenly. It surged straight toward the Koran planet. Ralvik's heart stopped. They are going for the civilians. Before he could act, the largest human warship, a massive Titan-class vessel, broke formation and positioned itself in the distortion's path. Its engines roared at maximum strength. Its shields glowed white hot from overloading. Jera covered her mouth. They're blocking it. The Titan ship released a burst of energy so bright it blinded half the sensors. It was not a weapon. It was a Lord Da, something the creature wanted more than the civilians below. Ralvik understood instantly. They're giving the distortion a stronger signal to chase, Kate confirmed. We're baiting it away. But we cannot do this for long. The smaller distortion twisted in excitement, changing direction toward the Titan ship. It hit the human vessel with full force. The shield shattered like glass. Armor broke. Entire decks vaporized. Yet the Titan ship kept moving, using itself as bait. Ravik felt a deep ache. Humans are sacrificing their largest ship. Jera wiped tears from her eyes. Why? Why would they do this for us? Kate answered with a quiet strength. Because if you fall, it learns more. And if it learns more, then everyone dies. The Titan ship drifted, burning and broken. Still alive, still glowing, still drawing the creature away from the planet. But the first distortion, the original one, was still free. Ravek's console beeped sharply. Commander, Jera cried. The first distortion. It's moving again. Ravik stared in disbelief. The first entity was heading toward the human flagship, the UNS Harbinger. Cade's voice remained calm, but there was something new there. Pain. Commander Ravik, if our flagship falls, you must run. Do not argue. Ravik shook his head. No, we will not abandon you. Kate didn't respond at first. When she spoke, her voice was soft. Then pray we last long enough. The first distortion almost reached the Harbinger when the ship suddenly released a strange signal. It wasn't a weapon die, it was a message, a repeating phrase in old, simple human language. We are still here. Ravik stiffened. Why would they send that? Jera slowly looked up at him. Because they want the creature's attention. Ravik felt the floor tilt beneath him as the truth struck. The humans were not only bait, they were preparing something secret, something dangerous enough that even Deathworlders hid it. The humans held their line, even as both distortions closed in. The Harbinger, glowing with emergency lights, hovered in the center of the formation like a wounded giant refusing to fall. Commander Ravik felt his pulse in his throat as he studied the human flagship. Something was happening there, something the humans had prepared long. Before they reached the Quran system, Jera analyzed the signal. Commander, the message the humans sent. We are still here. It's repeating on an old frequency, very old. It predates human interstellar travel. Ravik dug through the station's limited database. Their earliest long-range beacon system used that pattern. But why would they use an ancient signal now? Jera shook her head. I think they want the creature's attention. They want to wake something or trigger something. The Harbinger dimmed suddenly, as if its power was being drawn inward. The front of the ship opened, revealing an inner chamber like a giant heart made of metal. Bright white lines ran through its interior, pulsing slowly. Ravik leaned closer. What is that? The humans didn't tell us everything, Jera whispered. They brought something with them. The first distortion sensed the change. It twisted sharply, pulling away from empty space and moving directly toward the Harbinger like a predator catching the scent of wounded prey. The hull of the flagship began to glow as if heated from the inside. Sensors on the Quran station picked up impossible readings, energy levels no ship should generate. Ravik whispered, they're charging something massive. Captain Mara Cade's voice returned, this time fainter. All Quran forces, keep your distance from the Harbinger. Our containment locks are almost open. Jera gasped. Containment locks? Containing what? Before anyone could ask, the system shook with a deep vibration. The Harbinger's inner chamber brightened, releasing a sharp flash. A sphere of glowing energy formed at its core, shivering, unstable, crackling with blue lightning that danced across the hull. Ravik stared in disbelief. They are not creating a weapon. They are releasing one. The sphere trembled like it was alive. The first distortion reacted instantly. It sped toward the Harbinger, devouring the space around it, pulling matter into its swirling darkness. Kate continued speaking, her tone steady even as the ship shook violently. This was designed to capture the creature, not destroy it. We could never destroy it. Jera blinked hard. Then what does it do? It traps it. Ravik understood. The humans built a prison, yes, Kate said. A prison that we can throw into deep space, far from any living world. The Harbinger vibrated again. More locks disengaged. Panels slid open, exposing the glowing sphere. The sphere pulsed brighter each second. Then something unexpected happened. The sphere cracked. A small fissure split across its surface, releasing a burst of white light. The Harbinger's alarms echoed loudly through the comm channel. Kate cursed under her breath. The containment core is damaged. It won't hold full charge. Jera looked terrified. If it breaks now, what happens? Kate answered without hesitation. It will take us with it. The gravity around the flagship warped. The second distortion momentarily paused its attack, reacting to the strange energy building inside the Harbinger. Even the planet ground defenses felt the pull. Ralvik clenched his hands. "Captain, we must help you. We can send energy beams to reinforce your shields." "No," Kate shouted. "If you interfere, the entity will learn your signal too." Ralvik swallowed his frustration. The humans had come to protect, and they would not let anyone share their burden. The sphere cracked again. The light inside grew unstable, flickering like a dying star. The Harbinger struggled to hold it together. Kate spoke quietly now. "Commander Ralvik, listen carefully. The creature hunts signals. It hunts knowledge, and it grows stronger by consuming anything intelligent. If we let it escape this system, it will find more worlds." Ralvik felt the weight of her words. "And the other distortion? The smaller one?" "We believe the smaller one is a younger form," Kate said. "A spawn. If this continues, they will multiply." Outside, the Titan ship that had lured the smaller distortion was breaking apart, sections exploding in red fire. The distortion was feeding, absorbing every pulse of power left in the dying ship. Ralvik whispered, "They evolved during the hunt." "Exactly," Kate said. "That is why we needed the Harbinger. It was built to contain an evolving predator no weapon can kill." The Harbinger's engine surged with one final burst. Panels locked into place. The glowing sphere stabilized barely. Kate exhaled slowly. "Containment ready. All remaining human ships, clear the zone." A dozen human vessels pulled away, engines burning at full thrust. But the distortions noticed the retreat. The first distortion lunged forward, hitting the Harbinger with a pulse so strong that the flagship's shield matrix shattered instantly. The impact shook the ship like a leaf in a storm. The second distortion abandoned the Titan wreck and moved toward the Harbinger as well. "Jera whispered, "Both are going for the humans." Ralvik knew why. They sensed the containment. They sensed the trap. Kate's voice was ragged now. "The more they attack, the better chance the prison sphere has to absorb them. But if they break the chamber first, we die for nothing." The distortion struck again. The Harbinger buckled. The sphere cracked. Deeper. Alarm screamed. And then the flagship released a shockwave so bright the entire system lit up. Ralvik shielded his eyes as the signal spread across every ship and every sensor. Jera clutched her console. "Commander, the sphere is pulling them in." The distortions twisted aggressively, fighting the pull like beasts caught in a net. They screamed. A sound felt in the mind, not the ears, but they were being dragged toward the sphere. The humans had done it. They had forced the creatures into the trap, but the strain was too much. As the sphere absorbed the distortions, the Harbinger began to break apart. Kate's final transmission cut through the static. "Commander, run!" The sphere reached critical mass. And the Harbinger exploded. The explosion of the Harbinger was unlike anything witnessed before. It wasn't a fireball. It wasn't light. It wasn't sound. It was a wave of silence. A sphere of absolute emptiness expanded for several seconds, swallowing color, swallowing motion, swallowing even time. For a moment, every sensor in the Koran system went dark. Screens died. Panels flickered. The entire station vibrated as if the universe itself held its breath. Commander Ralvik stood frozen, holding the edge of his console with white knuckles. He could not hear anything. No alarms, no voices, not even his own heartbeat. The silence lasted only a moment, but it felt like hours. Then sound rushed back. Panels beeped wildly. Screens flashed. Static poured from every comm channel. Jera gasped loudly, clutching her chest. "Commander, are we alive?" Ralvik looked at the distant space where the Harbinger had been. There was nothing left. No debris, no metal, no fire. Only a shrinking cloud of pale light, fading slowly into the dark. "We are alive," he answered quietly. "But I don't know for how long." The sphere that had contained the distortions was also gone. It vanished with the explosion, like it had never existed. Ralvik prayed the distortions had been trapped inside and pulled into some distant void. But he had no proof. Jera regained control of one console, rebooting long-range sensors. "Please hold." The station lights flickered again, stabilizing slowly. Civilians on the planet below were panicking. Emergency calls flooded the channels. Evacuation had stopped mid-process when the shockwave hit. Ralvik forced himself to breathe. "Report anything moving in the debris zone." Jera stared at her screen. Nothing. Only silence. For a moment, hope flickered in Ralvik's chest. Maybe the humans had succeeded. Maybe the distortions were truly gone. But hope lasted only seconds. A single blip appeared on the sensor dot, then another. Jera's eyes widened with horror. "Commander, something survived." Ralvik leaned close. "Is it a ship?" "No," she whispered. "It's the smaller distortion. It broke free before the explosion." Ralvik felt cold. "And the bigger one?" Before Jera could answer, a low vibration echoed through the station. The lights dimmed again. The air temperature dropped. Every living being felt a pressure in their skulls, as if something enormous was watching them through the walls of space. "The big one was still out there," Ralvik whispered. "The trap failed." Jera shook her head violently. "No, it worked. It pulled them in, but the Harbinger exploded too early. The sphere couldn't complete the collapse." Ralvik understood. The distortions escaped the prison before it sealed. Jera nodded. "And now? They're angry." Outside, the human fleet was in chaos. Without their flagship, they looked lost. Some ships were drifting with half power. Others were trying to regroup, but their formation broke without Captain Kate's coordination. A small human frigate broadcasted a desperate message. "Harbinger is gone." "Repeat, Harbinger is gone. All units fall back." The message cut off as a sudden shadow passed through the frigate. The small distortion moved like a blade slicing through space. The frigate flickered, bent unnaturally, then collapsed inward like crushed paper. Jera covered her mouth. "It's hunting again." The main distortion followed, its mass expanding and shrinking with unnatural rhythm. It looked slower, wounded, unstable, but still deadly. The explosion had weakened it, but not destroyed it. Ralvik knew what must be done. "Signal all surviving human ships. Tell them to regroup near the planetary shield. We must form a defensive barrier." Jera blinked. "But Commander, the distortions, we don't outrun them," Ralvik said firmly. "We outlast them." Human ships, with failing engines and cracked hulls, turned toward the planet. They moved like warriors ready to die protecting a world not their own. For a brief moment, Ralvik felt a sense of unity. Cran, human, species did not matter. Only survival. Then the planet-wide alarms activated. The Koran world's core defense AI sent a broadcast across all channels. "Warning, unknown anomaly approaching at planetary level. Recommend full shield charge." Jera checked her readings. "Commander, the main distortion is heading straight for the planet." Ralvik's chest tightened. "It's going for the largest life signal, the entire planet. Millions of civilians." Humans tried to intercept. Their ships fired everything they had left. Railgun rounds, drones, energy beams all thrown at the distortion. None of it mattered. The creature absorbed everything. Then it accelerated. Ralvik's voice cracked. "Activate the planetary shield." Jera slammed her hand on the controls. "Shield charging." 30%. The distortion moved faster. 40%. Still faster. 50. A human cruiser rammed into the distortion, sacrificing itself. The distortion absorbed the entire ship, crushing it like dust. Jera cried out. 60%. The distortion reached the upper atmosphere. The entire sky turned black. Ralvik grabbed the comm panel. "Full power to shields." Jera screamed. "Shield at 90%. The distortion slammed into the invisible barrier surrounding the planet. The impact shook everything. Buildings cracked. Oceans rippled. The atmosphere burned with unnatural light. The shield flickered. Then it held. Barely. Ralvik sank into his chair, weak with relief. The distortion pressed against the shield like a beast trying to claw its way inside. Jera whispered, "How long can it hold?" Ralvik stared at the shaking shield line. "Not long." The smaller distortion circled behind the planet. They were trapped between two monsters, and the humans had almost nothing left. The planetary shield shook like it was made of thin glass instead of reinforced energy. Every second, the main distortion pushed harder, pressing its impossible mass against the barrier that separated millions of Koran civilians from certain death. Buildings on the planet's surface vibrated. Clouds twisted into spirals. The sky cracked with bright flashes like lightning that came from no storm at all. Commander Ralvik stood stiff, watching the shield weakening with every pulse. "Jera, report." Jera's hands flew over her controls. "Shield integrity at 70%. Dropping fast. The creature is draining the field. Outside in space." The smaller distortion drifted behind the planet like a hunting shadow, waiting for the shield to fall. The humans knew this too. Their remaining ships repositioned themselves, spreading out in a defensive ring around the shield perimeter. These ships were battered, broken, leaking fuel and energy, but they held their formation with the determination of soldiers. Who understood this might be their final stand? Ravik whispered, "They are still fighting. After losing their flagship, after losing everything." Jera nodded with wide, teary eyes. Humans don't run from threats. They run into them. A human dreadnought, one of the few still fully operational, sent a message across open channels. "Grand Command, this is the Valor. We are preparing a kinetic strike on the smaller entity. We will buy you time. Prepare to evacuate your planet if the shield fails." But there was nowhere to go. Ravik answered immediately. "Valor, if the shield fails, we cannot evacuate fast enough." "Understood," the human replied. "Then we make sure it does not fail." The Valor charged forward. Its engines flared bright as it accelerated beyond safe limits. Metal panels broke loose. Its hull screamed under the stress. But it pushed on, a flaming spear heading straight toward the small distortion. Jera gasped. "They're going to ram it." Ravik closed his eyes for a moment. "Yes, they will." The Valor struck the creature with full force. The impact exploded in a burst of light. The smaller distortion folded, twisted, and collapsed for a brief moment. Enough for Hope. But then it expanded again. Alive. Weakened, but alive. Ravik slammed his hand on the console in frustration. "It didn't work." Jera cried, "Commander, the humans are out of ships. They have nothing left that can hurt it." Ravik stared at the shield as it flickered violently. "Then we must think. These creatures hunt signals. The humans built a trap using signals. If we can recreate part of that system." "But Commander," Jera whispered, "we don't have the technology for something that advanced." "Then we use what we have." He rushed to the control platform and manually opened the emergency engineering interface. The plan forming in his mind was dangerous, but they were out of choices. "We overload the planetary shield cores," he said. "We create a false signal so powerful it draws both distortions into a single point." Jera froze. "But that will burn the shield generators. And if it fails, the planet becomes the signal." Ravik nodded grimly. "I know." Jera shook her head, panic rising. "Commander, this is suicide. We are already facing death," Ravik said softly. "At least this way, we choose how." A sudden transmission cut through their argument. A human voice, weak, crackling, but alive. It was Captain Mara Cade. Jera gasped. "She survived." Ravik stared at the comm panel. "Captain Cade, how?" Her voice was barely more than a whisper, filled with pain. "Escape pod. Ejected seconds before the core blew." "I don't have long." "Listen carefully." Jera leaned forward. "Captain, we need help." "The distortions, I know," Cade interrupted. "I've been tracking them. Your shield is moments from collapse." Ravik inhaled sharply. "Captain, we were about to overload the shield cores to create a false signal, but we don't know if it will work." "It won't," she said immediately. "The distortions will sense it's artificial. They'll ignore it." Jera felt her breath catch. "Then, what do we do?" There was a long silence. Only the deep hum of the shield could be heard, fading bit by bit. Finally, Captain Cade spoke again. "There is one thing these creatures cannot resist," she said. "Knowledge. Real knowledge. A living signal." From a thinking mind, Ralvik's chest tightened. "That means someone must broadcast their own life signal." "Yes," Cade said softly. "A direct mental pattern." Jera's face went pale. "But that would kill." She stopped herself. She already knew it would kill whoever sent it. Captain Cade continued, her voice trembling with exhaustion. "Someone must lure them away. A signal strong enough to pull both distortions in the same direction. Once they follow the signal, they could be drawn far from the planet. Maybe into deep space. Maybe into a black hole. Anywhere but here." Ravik felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. A living sacrifice. A final lure. A mind to distract the monsters long enough for a chance at survival. Jera's voice shook. "Commander, no." Ravik stepped back from the console. He looked at his officers, his people, his homeworld below. He thought of the humans who had already given their lives without asking for anything in return. "Captain Cade," he said quietly, "tell me how to send the signal." Jera grabbed his arm. "Commander, you can't." "Let me do it." "No," Ravik said firmly. "Your mind is too young. You have a future. I'd have already lived mine." Captain Cade's voice softened. "Ravik, are you sure?" "Yes," he answered. "If I don't, everyone dies." Jera cried openly now. The shield flickered harder than ever. The distortions pressed closer, sensing weakness. Ravik placed his hand on the mental interface console. "Tell me what to do, Captain." Cade inhaled shakily. You must open your mind. Think clearly. Focus your memories, your fears, your hopes. Every part of your consciousness. The creature will sense it. The distortions pulsed. The shield dropped below 50%. Ralvik closed his eyes, preparing himself. The fate of his world depended on the strength of a single mind. And he was ready. Commander Ralvik placed both hands on the mental interface console. The surface lit up with soft blue lines, pulsing gently as it scanned the rhythms of his thoughts. Jera stood beside him, tears streaking down her face. The entire control room was silent. No one dared interrupt. Every officer understood that their commander was preparing for something no one else could return from. Outside, the planetary shield trembled under the crushing force of the distortions. The main creature pressed against the barrier like a giant shadow climbed for a way inside. The smaller one circled above the shield line, darting and pulsing as if waiting for the moment the planet became defenseless. Captain Marcade's weak voice guided Ralvik. Slow your breathing. Focus every memory you have. You must project your consciousness outward. The creatures will notice. Ralvik closed his eyes. At first, the console felt cold, then warm. Then it felt like it disappeared altogether. A strange soft pressure entered the back of his mind, gently nudging his thoughts toward a signal pattern. He could feel his memories opening like pages his first flight training. The day he became commander. The day he promised his people he would always protect them. Jera whispered, voice trembling, please come back, Commander. But Ralvik knew he wouldn't. He spoke softly, without opening his eyes. Jera, lead them well. You have a strong heart. Her tears fell faster. She lowered her head. Unable to answer, Ralvik took a deep breath and allowed the console to connect. Fully. The world around him vanished. He floated in a dark space filled with echoes of light, his own thoughts shining like small stars. He felt everything he had ever seen, felt, loved. His mother's voice, his first victory, his failures, his fears, his hopes. The console amplified it all into the void outside, and the distortions felt it. The main creature paused. The pressure on the shield eased slightly. The smaller creature stopped circling and turned sharply toward the signal, now radiating from the command station. The Quran officers gasped. Jera's voice broke. They sense him. Ralvik felt them too. Like the massive, cold minds approaching a hunger that existed without emotion. Not creatures, not machines, not life as any species understood it. They were voids that learned, absorbed, erased. Their attention pressed into Ralvik's consciousness. He trembled, but did not let fear break him. Captain Cade's voice cut in. They are moving toward you. Hold steady. Keep the signal strong. Ralvik pushed deeper into his memory. He showed them images of his planet's oceans, his people's architecture, the laughter of children, the vast deserts he had crossed during training. He let them feel the warmth of his home. The distortions drew nearer, attracted by the living signal. Outside, the human and Quran forces watched in awe as both creatures left the shield, drifting upward like shadows pulled by a rising flame. Jera called out, Commander, they're leaving the planet. Ralvik heard her voice as if from a great distance. He felt everything, fear, sadness, pride. Then he focused again. Captain Cade, he whispered through the interface. What now? You must lead them away, she said weakly. Draw them toward deep space. As far as you can. Ralvik's heart tightened. How far? Far enough that they cannot return. Ralvik understood. He would think of nothing but the darkness beyond the stars. He imagined the deepest voids, the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the lonely places where no ship had ever traveled. The distortions followed. The shield stabilized. Civilian buildings stopped shaking. The sky brightened. The planet was safe for now. Jera watched the sensor feed as both creatures moved higher, farther, following the signal her commander's mind was creating. Her chest tightened as she whispered, Come back, please. Ralvik's vision faded. His connection to the command center dimmed, but he kept projecting the signal. His thoughts drifted farther and farther. He was no longer in the room. He was floating in the void, with two shadows behind him. Jera cried, Commander, Commander, respond. He could not. He focused only on one thing, luring the distortions away. Captain Cade spoke again, voice barely audible. He's doing it. He's pulling them away. The creatures accelerated, becoming streaks of twisting energy. They followed Ralvik's consciousness as it moved beyond the system, past the moons, past the asteroid belt, past every known beacon. Ralvik felt himself weakening. His memories flickered. His thoughts grew dim. His presence drifted into a place no mind had ever entered, awake, dark, cold, endless. Yet he remained calm. He whispered into the void, though no one could hear. If my life protects my people, then it is a good life. The distortions rushed after him, pulled by the final light of his mind. And then, with a soft fading breath, Commander Ralvik disappeared. The two distortions vanished with him into the unreachable dark. Silence returned. On the command station, Jera collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Human survivors bowed their heads in respect. The planet's population cried, understanding they were alive because one mind stood between them and oblivion. After several minutes, a faint message came from Captain Cade's escape pod. Your commander saved us all. Honor him, remember him, and know this. Humans will rebuild, and we will stand with you so this never happens again. Jera stood slowly, wiping her tears. She pressed a hand to the mental interface console where Ralvik had made his stand. We will remember, she whispered. Above the planet, debris drifted slowly in the quiet sky. Human ships began rescue and repair operations. The Quran world lived because one mind had walked into the dark, and two monsters followed. The story ends, but their alliance had only begun.